This episode of the Christians Who Drink Whiskey and Their Open-Minded Friends podcast is brought to you by Guy and Lady Barrel alcohol-infused cigars. These cigars are absolutely incredible, and they are perfect for any occasion. I particularly enjoy their newest flavor, Mojito. I'm not sure if you heard me correctly. I said Mojito-flavored cigar. I don't think it gets much better than that. Now, cigars are best enjoyed with company, so head on over to alcoholinfusedcigars.com and pick up a 5-cigar box set with any flavor of your choice. These cigars are great for birthdays, weddings. They're a great gift. You can give them for almost any occasion. I particularly love to get a cigar out, go on an evening walk, and pray. But you can use it however you want. Once again, thank you to Guy and Lady Barrel Cigars for sponsoring our show. Go to alcoholinfusedcigars.com and see all they have to offer. Please enjoy responsibly. Hey everybody, I'm Kevin Hackenberg, and welcome to Christians Who Drink Whiskey and Their Open-Minded Friends. And I am just so excited today because my friend Nicole Bruce is with us via Zoom, and Nicole and I used to go to the same church, and she's a bartender, and our birthdays are like 2 days apart. And so, go May birthday. Woo, woo.
Yes, May birthdays.
And we are recording this during quarantine. So, Nicole and I are both in Philadelphia, but aren't together right now. And so, Nicole, let's pour a little drink. What's the bartender drinking tonight?
The bartender is drinking a Jim Beam vanilla strawberry basil old fashioned. Yeah, what? I know. Yes. I started to just do a beer and a shot, but that creative side of me kind of kicked in. Okay.
That sounds, man, after quarantine, I'm coming for that.
I will make sure that you get one. I promise.
I'm going to open up tonight. I got this very expensive bottle of Oban single malt Scotch whiskey. I got it for my friend Jean Charnay, who I thought I was going to be in California with this weekend, or next weekend, for our IQ board meeting. But, Jean, this was meant for you, but we'll have to drink this next time IQ gets together in person. But I'm going to pour myself a bottle of this.
Oh, wow. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Jean came and did a shoot with me here in Philadelphia, and I asked him what he wanted to drink on the podcast, but we never got to do it. So,
and it's one of the places I used to work. They carry that, so I'm just like, ooh.
It's here, Jean, waiting for you when we do the podcast. So, check it out. Well, here we go. Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, that's so good.
Oh, likewise, Jean. Thank you for the recommendation. That was very nice. And yours. That's really, so tell me, Nicole, how did you get into bartending?
Okay, the first thing I want you to do is stop calling me Nicole. That only goes for when I'm in trouble.
You're going to get in trouble. You're going to get in trouble for being on this podcast by somebody.
And okay, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. But Nikki is fine. That's how you know me, as Nikki. So don't change up on me now, Kevin. That's not going to work.
All right.
But you know what? It's really funny. At least you didn't call me by the wrong name during prayer. So,
So I love that. I love you, Nikki. And it's just so much fun ever since we met. You just come over to some of my wife and I's parties at our house, and every time I see you, you just bring joy to my face. So
Thank you.
When you became a patron last week and told me how much the podcast means to you, I was just like, you were already on my short list of people that eventually I want to have on the podcast. So I'm like, let's do it now.
I was so excited when I saw it. I was just like, yes, yes, I'm doing this. Yes, I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm so proud of you, Kevin. I think you are amazing. You know that I love you and your family so, so very much, and I appreciate you.
All right. All right, Nikki. So back to the question.
Okay, back to the question.
How did you become a bartender?
Become a bartender?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I actually always wanted to be in the hospitality industry, like since I was a little kid. My dream was to have my own hotel and shopping mall so that I could put my favorite things together. I like serving and playing restaurant and waitress and stuff like that. So it's always been in me. And I was about maybe 19 when I had my first opportunity to become a bartender. But at that time, my mother was still living, and a devout Christian woman. I had already messed up a couple of times. I had 2 children by 2 different people, and she just did not think that I should add insult to injury by going to work in a bar. So when the bar owner called, she said some blessed things that weren't so nice, and I lost that opportunity. But everything happens in due season. So fast forward about maybe another 4 years later, I was hanging out with one of my friends, and there was a woman that worked at the bar, and she was like, oh my God, you have such a great personality. You really should consider becoming a bartender. And I was just like, I don't know. I don't know about all that. And I did it on a dare, basically, and did it for about maybe 3 or 4 months and just let it go. It just was not my scene. Totally not the place where it was safe or anything like that. And then I was a mother of 3 children by then, and it was just not a good environment. So I let that go, and I am hard-headed. I am very, very hard-headed. I'm a Taurus, so I'm stubborn, and I need to get the lessons told to me over and over again. And
Wait. That's my problem too. You're saying, oh, that's
all the time. I am not the sharpest tool in the shed. God has to really tell me things more than once before I'm like, okay, I get it. Okay, I'll do it now. But that's further on into the conversation. But
that's why we get each other, I think.
I think so too. So the opportunity presented itself again when a friend of mine, he started a bartending school. And he was like, Nick, this would be perfect for you. He's also a Taurus, but that's another story. And he's like, Nick, this would be perfect for you. You've got great energy. You can make great money at this. Come on. I was just like, no, I don't think so. I tried it before. It wasn't my thing. So he had done about maybe 2 classes and teaching. He was like, listen, you want to get in on this. So finally, what ended up happening was I was working at a really great job, and I ended up losing my job. And I was like, okay, I have given all I can give. I've done all I can do. Nothing beats a failure but a try. Let me go give this bartending thing. And that was about 10 years ago. And ever since then, I have been bartending on the side. But as of the last 3 years, this has been my full-time career, and I've done it, and I have not looked back, and I love what I do. I love what I do.
And why? And you said you might have already touched on this, but why do you love it so much?
I love bartending because I love interacting with people. I like the hospitality. I like people going away feeling good because they had a good meal, they had a good experience, and especially because they had a good drink. Yeah. So that it does something for me.
You know, Meg, you know my wife, and
of course,
you know Meg is like this person that like she has her friends, right? And we are loyal to her friends. Her friends are my friends now too, but it's a small crowd of people. And for me, it's like everybody. You can't make my birthday party big enough, you know? And what was so exciting to me, this is like, what was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Where Meg put a little super surprise birthday dinner together for me at the bar where you were serving at. And so it was like, I was like, this is so amazing because I got to hang out with you on my birthday with my friends, and you were serving, and I just it's a, that's I as I saw you in your element, just serving, and that what you said, just making hospitality. So all the things you're saying to me, I'm like, I've seen it in action, and it's beautiful. It's what God has intended for you.
But yeah, I mean, I love it. I really, and being a bartender, and I'm going to be really transparent. I went to college, didn't finish. Went to beauty school, didn't finish. Bartending was the one and only thing that I actually finished from start to finish. I went to school and got my license and became certified and all that kind of stuff. So it means a whole lot to me. It really, really, really does.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Where'd you go to school? Your friend's school?
Yes, for my bartender, I went to Mix It Up Bartending School here in Philly. And but I went to Penn State University. I went to main campus. I went to Empire Beauty School. Wasted so much money. Wasted so much money. But
is that also a tour? Is that also a tourist thing? I don't know.
I think so. It might be. But thank you, Kevin, because I get a chance to be honest. Thank you.
That's what it's about. That's what it's about here. We're trying to be honest and see what's up. What yeah. Like I feel like I'm listening to myself. So what does is your mom still around?
No, my mother passed away. It's been it'll be 12 years November of this year. Mm-hmm.
So you weren't a bartender while she was around, or?
I had just started. Like I had done my little my jaunt in the not so good neighborhood. So I was kind of sneaking and doing it. But she's never seen me like in full-fledged bartender server mode. No.
Hmm. Well, from heaven, I think that she, I hope she would be impressed and she know.
Quite, you know what? I believe that she would, because I think deep, it's 7 of us all together. And we all have very, very, very extremely different personalities. And I remember when she was going through her transition, we were having a conversation and she said, I'm not worried about Darlene. That's my oldest sister. She said, because she has Cleveland. That's my brother-in-law. They were married. And she said, I'm not worried about Roz because she has Derek, my other sister that's married. And she says, I'm not worried about Tyra and Ella. Tyra and Ella, because they have each other and they live together, so they'll be fine. And she said, I'm not worried about, the 2 boys, Bubby and David, my younger brothers, because they have each other. So I kind of took it aback and I'm like, Mom, I said, you're worried about me? And she says, no, Nikki, I'm not worried about you at all. She said, because you're a survivor. So in my heart of hearts, I do believe that in spite of everything, I think she's proud.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. So tell me a little about, like, you grew up here in Philly, or tell me about the growing up,
Yes, I grew up here in Philadelphia, in the Germantown section of the city. I grew up not too far from LaSalle University. I remember when it was LaSalle College. And we had a 3-bedroom row home. And like I said, it was 7 of us, all living in that same house, sometimes sleeping head to foot. Grew up, I didn't know we were poor. But we were poor. My parents, they did the best they could with what they had. And, but we were always, no matter what you did on Saturday night, my mother was a firm believer that you went to church on Sunday morning. And the crazier part was that my father, he wasn't a Christian, but he always believed that our family should be a Christian household. Imagine that. There was something that he saw in Christian values that he wanted my mother to instill. Like my older sisters, they would sing. My parents would have parties and stuff, and my sisters would sing, like mimic the Supremes and all that kind of stuff. And my father said, he said, you should be ashamed of yourself. These girls should not be singing that. They should be singing in church. And my older sisters would sing in church. And my father was actually the one that really pushed my mom into Christianity, even though he wasn't a Christian. And that's where it all began.
That's a very interesting story. So why do you think that is? He just like recognized the value or something, or?
I believe that my father did see the value and like the moral compass in Christianity and just religion in general. But I think he was just more maybe enamored with Christianity, because when my parents got married, it was back in the 50s. And during that time, it was like a lot of civil rights movement and things of that nature going on. So I think a lot of that had to do with Christianity being prevalent in the Black community. So that might be part of why he felt drawn to that.
Would he go to church too?
He would go if we had to do Easter parts, those little speeches and stuff, or if there was like a Christmas show or something like that. He wasn't a practicing Christian, and I can't remember him praying or, having any real faith. But if there was something that we were involved in at church, he would show up from time to time. Yeah.
That's very interesting that he was a proponent of it, but not even just like going in the door too much,
Right.
That's fascinating. And so 7 of you in the house. Is that 5 children, right?
It was 5 girls and 2 boys.
7 kids. What?
Yes, 7.
Where are you in the pecking order?
I am smack dab in the middle. So I have 3 older siblings that are stair steps. They're all 2 years apart. Then there's a 9-year difference, and here I come. Then there's a 4-year difference, and like a 3.5 year, not even like a year and a half difference, because my younger sister Tyra and my brother Jerome, but we call him Bubby, they're Irish twins.
Okay.
So if anybody doesn't know what an Irish twin is that my siblings, my brother and sister, are the same age for 6 weeks out of the year. So his birthday is January 12th, and her birthday is February 27th. And then I have they're
That's real Irish twins. They're like,
isn't that really Irish?
Woo.
And I was like, maybe I'm gonna say in my 20s when I actually had heard that for the first time. I never knew what that was. My mother always said that when she had children, she wanted 2 boys and 2 girls, and a set of twins. So technically, we call ourselves the second set. She got that. She got the 2 girls and the 2 boys and the set of twins. But yeah, and then my youngest brother, he's 40, so he's the youngest. So we range in age from 40 to 61. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So it was a lot of people. And I think it's funny because I think about as a kid, I hated coming from a big family. I hated it because it was always somebody in my business, somebody that was always around. You never had any privacy. You had to share the bathroom. But now as an adult, the things that I did not like as a kid, I really appreciate. Why? Because there's always somebody in my business. Somebody is always around. Somebody always to share with. So
yeah,
it changes a lot.
Yeah, I think over time, your perspective changes deeply.
It does. It does. And I think with coming from a big family, I think that's also what nurtured my gift of serving. Because when we were growing up, since there were so many of us, people wouldn't invite us over for dinner or parties or things like that because it was too many. You figure you're inviting a husband and a wife and 7 people. That's a lot of folks. So a lot of the events that we had, birthday parties or holiday dinners, it was just our family. Or people would call I'll never forget, people would call the house and they're like, oh my God, are you having a party? And my mom would say, no, that's just my family.
Yeah.
Because it was always noise and commotion and people around. So you appreciate that. And it taught you how to serve, it taught you how to set the table, it taught you how to be kind to people,
So, I don't know that I knew you were a mom. So tell me about your kids. How old are they? What are they doing?
I am not only a mom, I'm a grandmom, Kevin.
I would not even know that. I would not even guess that.
Yes.
I want the energy. Sons. I want the energy that you have and the excitement you have when I'm a grandmother.
Well, I don't want you to be a grandmother, because if you have the energy that I have as a grandmother, that'll be very, very interesting.
I hope you would catch that. All right. So yeah, tell me about your kids and your grandkids.
Yes, I have 3 sons and 1 grandson. My sons are 30, 28, 24, and my grandbaby, my sugar baby, is 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So there's Marcus, Avery, Justin, and Sage.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What are they doing? What are they? They're all out. You're not responsible anymore.
I am an empty nester. Yes, I am a true empty nester. There's nobody here but me. Nobody. So yeah, they're everybody is grown and doing their own thing. Thank you, God. They call and check on me, and during the pandemic that we're having, it was really cool because my oldest son, he called me. He's like, "Mom, I'm ready to go run some errands, go to the store and stuff. Text me your list." I was like, yes.
You've made it. You have made it. Yeah.
I have arrived.
I think that Meg is going to be like, she's going to be still the servant and still doing that to our kids during the next hopefully no more pandemics, but
No.
Even without a pandemic, she'll be like, "I'm going to the store. Text me your list." I think that's my wife's service. So I'm trying to encourage my kids to be like your kids, and
oh, they are, and that Ashley's my girl. Ashley, that's my girl. Listen, when I become famous, I'm telling you, because I am going to be famous, I still have time. She is going to be my fashion designer. I promise. Yeah. I promise.
Oh yeah. She's ready. She's ready. That is so wonderful. And how about with the other siblings? Do you guys all still live in Philly, or they spread around?
We're all within the tri-state area, which is really, really good. One of my sisters, everybody is really, really within, I'm going to say, maximum 40 minutes away. I have one sister in Jersey, one sister in Hatfield, but everybody else is still in the Philly area. Cool. So, and we spend a lot of time together. So yeah.
So your dad started you going to church, even though he didn't show up often, and were you always a church girl, or was there, tell me a little bit about the the trajectory of your life before we met.
Oh wow. Yes, I was always the church girl. And as a kid, I was embarrassed by it, and I hated it because people always called me the church girl. We grew up, it was like the things that you hear about, going to church on Sunday and spending all day in church on Sunday, because there was Sunday school and there was 10 o'clock prayer and 11 o'clock service, and then you break for lunch, and then you come back for the anniversary, and then you come back for 7 o'clock prayer, and being there on Saturdays selling chicken dinners and choir rehearsal, usher meeting, youth board. It was just my whole life revolved around church. Always. How we spent our summers, they would have bus trips to Wildwood. So it wasn't like our family was just going on vacation alone. We were going on vacation with everybody else in the church, taking day trips and things like that. But even with spending so much time in church, I did learn a lot. For example, growing up in church, you learn how to speak in public, because you're like 4 or 5 years old, and you have to give the Sunday school report. So you had to stand in front of about 100 people and said, yes, there were 8 people in class, and the donations we collected were 75 cents, you know, and they quote a Bible verse. You know, so you started at a really, really young age that it taught you to be confident and to speak up and to speak out. And then you went from doing that to saying the welcome address. Like you welcome the visitors. You had to stand again. And this time it wasn't 50 or 100 people. It might be 150 people. And you had to welcome them all into church. And then you went from that to like reading the scriptures. And then from that to sometimes even having to like, I didn't know it at that time. We call them young communicators now, where they're giving words, but we were doing that at like 13, 14 years old. And I did that. So it was just all my life, it revolved around church. It did. But I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
That was just the road that we, you know, that we went. Yeah.
That's awesome. So let me dive into like the question.
Okay.
You know, we're sitting here just sipping on some whiskey, and you got your drink's a little bit. That looks so good.
Strawberry basil old fashioned.
Yeah. What was the first time you drank?
Honestly, legally or illegally.
When was the first time you drank?
I'm gonna be really honest. I'm gonna say I was about 10. Yeah, so if I was 10, then my youngest siblings were about 6, 5, and 2.
Whoa.
Yeah, that I knew of, that I knew that I've heard stories that I had taken sips of beer like before I could walk.
Yeah.
But I don't remember that. But I do remember playing church in the kitchen. And what we would do is we would mash up saltine crackers and and take Manischewitz.
Okay.
And put it in like little teacups and play communion.
Yeah.
And we even had a song and everything.
Do you remember the song?
We had a song.
Do you remember it?
Oh, I do.
Please.
Okay, you ready? But it was a song that we heard in church. But
Okay.
this was the song we would sing. We would say, drinking of the wine, wine, wine. Drinking of the wine, oh my Lord, should have been there 10,000 years for the drinking of the wine. And then after we sang that song, we would have the whole service. You know, this is my body that was broken for you. You know, do this in remembrance of me. Let us eat together. And we would eat a little mashed up saltines. And then we would go into the blood, like, this is my blood that was shed for you in the remission of your sins. I don't even remember how I knew that it was remission. I might have said regression, but I knew I was pretty close. Yeah. But, you know, let us drink together. And we would pass this plate back and forth, drinking Manischewitz out of teacups.
Wow.
Sure.
Wow. And where was Mom? She's
Usually my mom was sleeping or upstairs on the telephone. But I mean, she didn't know we were playing church. She didn't know we were drinking wine. At least I didn't think she would drink no wine. You know, she would just hear us downstairs singing, thinking like, oh, I got good little Christian kids. But we were talking about drinking of the wine.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But that was the first time that I recall having a drink. I was like about 10 years old drinking Concord Grape Manischewitz.
Did she ever catch you?
No. But it's funny how things come full circle. I remember catching my sons drinking. Oh, wow. And they weren't even drinking anything like that was real. We were I had some apple pucker. Yeah. And it really, the alcohol content, not that I'm, you know, telling anybody, I'm not condoning this, but they were drinking it, and then they kept pouring water in the bottle. So it went from being like this traffic light green to like this really pale yellowish color. And when I asked them, they were like, no, mommy, it wasn't me. No, mommy, it wasn't me. So I was like, okay, I'll tell you what. We're all going to have drinks. So I had like this Cosby Show moment. We're all going to just take shots. But they still never told. But it was just like, what can I really say? It was like they were home. I'm praying that they didn't give it to their friends. And, you know, I don't agree with underage drinking by any means. Yeah. But if they were going to do it, I'm glad that they did it at home where there was some type of supervision, where I at least somewhat know that they did it, rather than them being somewhere with a friend and getting a hold of something that I had no control over. You know, them being ODing someplace or getting drunk or getting hurt. So
I thought it's interesting. You know, my family didn't drink when we were younger. I think my mom was a little more conservative, didn't really want to bring it in the house. Mm-hmm. My dad was kind of okay with it, but there was some tension there. But what's interesting is that my friends, my goddad, I lived with him and my best friend for 2 winters out of when my family went to Florida every winter. And I remember my best friend, his dad had said to him, whatever you want to do, if you want to drink a beer, you want to drink some whiskey, you want to do crack, do coke, do heroin, the first time you do it, I want you to do it with me. Whatever it is, bring home, you want to smoke a cigarette? Bring home smoke weed. Bring home enough for both of us. Or let me know, I'll go get it. And we'll do it together. Because I don't have any secrets. Right. I don't want to, I'd rather, I know what you're doing than you doing it, being afraid of my judgment. Because I'd rather our communication is more important,
right,
than me saying, like you can or can't do this thing.
I think that might be a dad thing, Kevin, because my dad, he even had that conversation with my mother about us drinking. And I was older when I found this out, but my father had told my mother, because my dad was a beer drinker, and he would drink Schlitz and Schaefer. Like my dad's favorite drink was a Greyhound. He was drinking Jacqueline's and grapefruit for ages. And he would, on the weekends, on Fridays, he would bring home a case of either Schlitz or Schaefer and put it in the refrigerator. And if they disappeared, and he would know how many he drank, he would say, Mabel, he was like, I would rather them drink it and me know than for them to be out in the street and do it and me not know. Now my brothers, they kind of took it up a notch. They would just come in they would just come in like eat a hot dog and have a beer. I'm like, really? But I think it's a guy thing.
Yeah. What age were your sons when you caught them drinking the pucker?
They had to be about 12. So I'm going to say 12, 10, and 8 or 7.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I don't think it was the 7-year-old. I really, really think it was the 10 and 12-year-old. But
yeah, I hope so. That's interesting. We'll be right back. We're going to take a little break, talk about our sponsors. This episode of the Christians Who Drink Whiskey and Their Open-Minded Friends podcast is brought to you by Dad's Hat Pennsylvania Rye Whiskey. Dad's Hat is real rye whiskey made the right way. This month's featured bottle is Straight Rye. The first straight rye made in Pennsylvania in over 25 years. This delicious whiskey is distilled farm to bottle in Pennsylvania with locally harvested grain and aged for a minimum of 4 years. The classic pre-prohibition flavor profile is the result of time-tested distilling methods and painstaking attention to detail. Head on over to dadshatrye.com to find a distributor near you, or if you're a Pennsylvania resident, you can have any of their delicious rye whiskeys delivered right to your door. Trust the distillery with over 200 years of American distilling tradition, Dad's Hat Rye. Please drink responsibly. We're back with my friend Nicole Bruce, who I got chastised for calling Nicole because her friends call her Nikki, and I definitely feel honored to be one of her friends.
Yes.
And Nikki is a bartender. She's here in Philly. She hangs out with my wife and I as often as we can, and we met at the church we were both attending at the time. The question I ask all my guests is, what do you think of Jesus?
What do I think of Jesus?
What do you think of Jesus?
I love Jesus. I do. I don't always act like it, but I do. I believe in redemption. I believe that as far as I've come, even with the mistakes that I made, that there's forgiveness, and it's because of Jesus that I'm here. I'm able to sit and have this conversation with you.
What do you mean by that? Is because of Jesus you're here? I think there's a lot of conversations that sometimes Christian to Christian we have, and sometimes like when you're at a bar, not everyone sitting across the bar from you is a church going Jesus the freak like myself. Why do you say you can only be here because of Jesus?
And I need to be better with that. Thank you for calling me on the carpet about that, Kevin, because we do use like a lot of churchisms and things like that, and I want to be able to be transparent and have a conversation with just anybody about how I feel about Jesus. So thank you again for this opportunity. I believe that when everything is said and done, I am such a mess. I've done so many stupid things. I've said so many stupid things. I've done things that people could not imagine. They're like, really? You look like such a church lady. And I'm like, yeah, well, but because of God's grace and the voice that I hear inside of me, that I know is not Nicole's voice, that I know it's the voice of God, that I'm able to sit here and still, in the faith that I have, I know that it's God. He's the reason that keeps me going.
Is there a time? Well, let's come back to the voice in a second, because I think those voices are very fun to talk about, interesting to talk about at least. Was there ever a time where you grew up in the church, your dad recommended it, and your mom took you? Was there ever a time where you didn't believe, you doubted what you were learning at church?
Absolutely. I'll never forget. We have a family member who was a Muslim, and I was just so impressed by the discipline of her religion, like the way she dressed and the way she spoke. And I was just like, oh my God. I'm like, is that what her God is all about? Because it doesn't feel like my God does that. That's what I was thinking, and it's ironic because it was during Ramadan, and now Muslims, it's during Ramadan again, right now for Muslims. And I was just like, oh my gosh, she's so graceful. She's so into her faith, and I just thought everything about her was beautiful. And that's when I was just like, I was looking at Christianity, and I'm like, well, Christianity isn't graceful, at least so I thought. And I said, well, Christianity isn't beautiful, and it's not disciplined, or I should say it was too disciplined. And I said, this can't possibly be real. And then it was also during a time when this was during the mid to late 80s, when a lot of young people started converting to Islam. So a lot of my friends were talking to me, and they were, proud of their faith. And I was just like, well, I want to be proud of my faith too. Let me see what this is. And I really considered it. I really, really considered it. But it was just something in me that knowing what I knew, or believing that there was a death and a burial and a resurrection, and that there was an atonement, that somebody cared so much for me that that they gave up their life for me. Even though my parents loved me, my siblings loved me, there was this being that was higher than me, that did something for me even before I was even thought of. That's what changed my mind. And that made me realize that, yes, Christianity was beautiful, and faith was graceful, and it was loving. All these things that I thought that I saw in these other faiths, it wasn't as real to me until I actually just started like really looking at it. And I stopped trying to pick it apart and find the things that were wrong with it, and really concentrated on the things that were right with it. That's right. That's why I'm in love with God.
Wow. I want to drink to that.
Me too.
That is so. Wow, I just want to like take a moment and just like listen to that. Listen to your honesty and your, I mean, I think there's so many times we don't get real with each other. And it's not just like, Christians, and it's not just because of the booze. It's really just because we're taking time
to talk to somebody.
Talk to somebody and go deep, So I think that's what I love about this show. And I get to do it with so many different people with different beliefs, and I feel very honored to have the guests I've had, and I feel honored to have you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I feel honored to be here.
What you mentioned as we were starting to kind of talk about Jesus, hearing God. What's that like for you? Hearing God. Is it a voice? Is it a voice? Is it a feeling? What is it?
For me, it's like I may read something and it'll give me like butterflies to read something. And I'm like, I never thought about that. Or I'll see something and it gives me that butterfly feel. And that's the best way I can describe it. I don't know. It's just like this tickle in my gut or in my stomach, or like my heart flutters, or my heart starts beating a little faster when, and it's not always, a panic or an anxiety, but it's something that makes me feel good. Like, oh, I never thought about it like that. Or I call it God having a sense of humor, where I'll have a thought, or I'll think I'll have a thought, and maybe 10 minutes later, or a few hours later, it'll come back up in a book, or somebody will say something, and I'm like, I never mentioned that to anybody, but I was thinking that, or I was feeling that, or I had written that down, and then it'll be reiterated by another person. Perfect example. I was talking to my sister, and I'll go back a little further. A friend of mine, I was working at one of the places I bartended at, and she's like, hey, you should really do a bartending class. She said, me and my girlfriends, we would love to have a girls' night in, and you can come and teach us how to make drinks. So I was like, okay, great. I said, you just pick a date and I'll come. Next thing I know, I let it go. I'm like, okay, whatever. Somebody says to me, hey, you really should consider doing a bartending class. Me and my girlfriends would come. And I'm like, wait, I just heard that maybe 2 months ago. Fast forward during the pandemic, my sister calls me. She was like, hey, what are you doing tonight? And I was just like, oh, nothing. She's like, well, we should do a virtual class through Zoom. You can teach us how to make lemon drops. I'm like, all right. About maybe half hour later. So, like I told you, I'm hard-headed. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. About a half hour later, the woman from the very first incident that said her and her girlfriends She says, hey, if you're not doing anything tonight, my girlfriends and I would really like to have a bartending class. Would you mind teaching us? And I was like, okay. And that's when I'm like, okay, God, I get it. So when I say I hear these voices, it's not always my voice. Sometimes it's somebody else's voice that I really believe is the voice of God saying, hey, Nikki, you need to do this, or come on. You didn't hear me the first 2 times, but I keep telling you. It's like that funny joke where the man is drowning and he's like, hey, God, help me. And God sends the tugboat. And then God sends the cruise liner. Then God sends an airplane. And he says, you didn't help me. I was waiting for you to help me. And he's like, well, look, I sent the tugboat. I sent the cruise liner. I sent the helicopter. Why weren't you listening? So, yeah, that's me. That's me.
Yeah.
And you know what, Kevin, a lot of times, and I feel like I'm over talking you, I'm so sorry, but I feel like sometimes people expect God's voice to be like James Earl Jones or
he's Darth Vader. That's not right.
Yes, but it's not like that. Sometimes it can be a little kid that will tell you, he can use anything that he wants to use to relay a message. We're all waiting for like the sky to crack open and, stop doing, but that's not how it works. That's not how the grace works. That's not how God works. Even with me being a bartender, who would have thought, hey, go ahead. I want you to go do this video. And now fast forward, I'm doing a podcast.
So you've been doing during pandemic, the bars are closed. Like what's coming back for you? Like when it's all over, do you have a job lined up or?
At the moment, I'm still praying. The 2 places that I work, they want me to come back. So that's always a blessing. One of the places, they sent an email to me yesterday and said, hey, we're thinking about doing some virtual bartending classes. Would you be interested in going onto our page and teaching? And I'm like, well, why don't you say? Okay, sure. So I have that, and then have that lined up. But that's really it. Wherever this takes me, I'm willing to go. I have had some really awesome experiences, and who would have thought that being a bartender and a Christian, and I don't hide the fact that I'm a Christian, because they say the things that you shouldn't talk about in a bar are religion and politics, but I don't talk about religion, but I really believe that a tree by its fruit. And if I'm kind to you and I'm caring and I'm patient and all these things that are graceful and loving, you got to start to think, well, it's not just because she's working for a tip. There has to be something else in there. And that's my opening to be like, yeah, I'm a Christian and I'm a bartender.
Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness,
yes.
Self-control.
And if you ask me, I think Christians will make the best bartenders. Yes, we do.
I will sign me up for one of your classes, and when you're ready, I'd love to produce your own bartending school online.
That would be awesome. Yes.
I think we got a new show. I think we got a new show for Funny&Amen. Is the bartending class. No, for serious.
So we can even sing the song.
How'd it go again?
You gotta drink another wine, wine. Drink another wine, oh my Lord. You should have been there 10,000 years for the drinking another wine.
Oh yeah. That's wow. We just launched a new show. I'm pretty sure. Well, that's wonderful. Wow. Anyway, what a wonderful time talking here. What we need to discuss? So in this time, what do you think about not having employment right now? How is that on you?
to be honest, at first I was petrified. I was really, really afraid because I rely on, I don't know if anybody knows, but most bartenders and servers, we work for less than minimum wage. And our salary is made up of tips. So we have to work really hard for tips. And in most cases, it's a tip pool. So I'm sharing, like if you tip me $5 on, a $20 tab, thank you. I appreciate that because I needed that 20%, that 25%. But I'm still sharing that $5 with 4 people because I have to pay my busser and I have to pay my food runner. And then if there's another bartender on with me, I have to split it with them. So if you're giving me $5, I may walk away with 2 of those dollars if I'm lucky before taxes, And so being in that industry, we're already very volatile because it's not always good. Now you're taking away everything because the bartenders and the servers, we were the first ones cut. We weren't considered essential during this time.
You're essential to me.
And I was just like, oh, okay, well, what am I going to do? So thank goodness I had like a little money squirreled away so that I could pay rent, until thankfully unemployment kicked in. But I was worried. I was really, really worried. And I didn't want to worry about anything because, again, that's against my faith. And my faith tells me that I'm not supposed to be anxious for anything, that anything that I ask for, that I can have it. And it's not a prosperity piece, but if I let God know, he's not going to let, just like you're not going to let your children go without and suffer on earth, my Heavenly Father is not going to let me go without and suffer here. It's not going to happen. And when I see that meme that says, I have lacked nothing during the pandemic, I have lacked nothing. I've eaten better. I gained 6 pounds in the last.
That's all? Is the COVID, I got the COVID-19.
No, thank goodness for my neighbor who loaned me the hula hoop, so that's been helping. But I have not lacked anything. There have been people that would cash at me, my regulars, my birthday was a couple days ago. Yeah. And it really surprised me because they were dropping money in my cash. And I'm like, oh my gosh, now I can actually pay my gas bill and pay my electric bill.
Your regular barstool patrons were like tipping you for nothing?
Yes. They were just like, hey, it's your birthday. Here, here's $100. And I was just like, oh, thank you, God. And it shocked me. It really, really did because they don't have to do that. Everybody is, right now is we're all in the same situation, in the same storm, but we're not in the same boat. Yeah. And I don't know what their home life is like, just like they don't know what mine is. So for them to think enough of me to say, here's this gift, I want you to have it, that meant a whole lot.
That's amazing. That's love. That is beautiful.
It really is. It really, really, really is. But I'm good. In spite of me being a bartender, in spite of me being the first to get cut, thank God for unemployment. Yeah. That was a huge, huge blessing because I didn't even think that I would be eligible for it. Because with us being below minimum wage, you have to make a certain amount of money in order to qualify. Yeah. But God, he saw differently.
What does your family think about you being a bartender?
My family, that's funny. Now that I'm doing it in a more structured way, they are my biggest cheerleaders. My sisters and my brothers, even my sons are my biggest cheerleaders. They already know that I'm in my element. At first, like I said, when I was working in those kind of sketchy places, I was like, come see me, come out, come have a drink. You know, this is what I'm doing. This is what I enjoy. They were like, no, no way. And when I started doing things more on a structured corporate level, and I'm like, hey, you guys will really like this place, you know, come by and see. So now they're actually fans too and followers, so I appreciate that.
What's the give us the backstory. What's the big difference between like some of the other places you used to bartend versus now? Like give us any stories, bartender stories?
God, yes. Oh. I have worked in places where they frisk you going in and frisk you coming out. I've worked in places where they dance on the bar. I worked in not where they're supposed to dance on the bar. It was just like really questionable characters would come in, and you already know. You it's no way I can even describe it except that you know that it's the wrong place to be. They're miscreants. It's not the best people. It's not the safest place. You got to knock a certain time on the door. You know, yeah, they were not good.
Have you ever felt like your life was like on the line?
Oh yeah, I'll never forget one particular place I worked at, and this is the first time I'm ever telling this story. There was an incident inside the bar, and the police came. And this guy, he had me he said, put this in your purse. It was his gun. And I said, am I going to do this or am I not going to do this? And I was like, oh my God, I have kids. If I don't do it, what's going to happen? If I do it, what's going to happen? So I did. And that's being quite honest. I put his gun in. He was like, okay. He said, I'm going to take you home. And I was like, no. I can get home by myself. And he was like, no, I'm going to take you home. And now, knowing what I know, he was taking me home to know where I lived so that if something ever came up, you know. And when I had started working in these places, I was kind of naive because I was a church girl. I'm like, oh, no, everybody's okay. You know, you see the best in people. But this person was really not good for anything. And he drove me home, and I really wanted to say that I lived someplace else, but I was just so afraid, and I just wanted to be in my house behind a closed door that I was just like, okay, this is where I live, this is where I'm going. Yeah, but that was like my biggest fear because I didn't know what he had done with that gun. I didn't know if he had anything to do with what had happened in this place, you know, because somebody had been shot. Wow. And I was like, oh God. I worked at another place where I was held up, you know, and me again being kind of naive, the man came into, it's not funny, but it's funny. He came into the bar and there weren't many people. It might have been 6 people and me, maybe. And the guy came in and everything was covered up. And the first thing I'm thinking, I'm like, what is this Muslim lady doing in the bar? She knows she's supposed to be in the bar. That's what I'm thinking. And he pulls out a gun. He never comes all the way into the door. He pulls out a gun and he says, give me your money. So I thought he was talking to one of the patrons.
Yeah.
I'm looking at him. I'm like, you better give him that money. This is what I'm thinking. And then another one of the patrons, he was like, no, Nikki. He said, just give him the register. Kevin, I promise you, if I could have thrown that cash register at him to get him out of that door faster, I would have. I had never in my life, my heart was beating so fast. I was just like, oh God. And that was like only my second, that was like my second day working there. My first day by myself and like my second day working at this bar. And my brothers came. And a friend of mine came and they were like, no. My brothers was like, no, she can't work here anymore. Get your stuff. And I'm like, but y'all the little brother. They were like, get your stuff, Nikki. Get your stuff. So, yeah, I've had some crazy stuff go on. I've had some crazy stuff go on.
What's the best experience you've ever had being a bartender?
I am going to say the best experience I had was, oh my God, I've had so many. That's to pick one. I've had more good experiences than I've had bad experiences. Working at the places that I've worked, I've been able to meet celebrities. I mean, I worked a gala that was a private event for Sting. There were only 150 people that were invited and only 4 bartenders. And I was one of those 4 bartenders. And you know, and I'm like less than 15 feet away from Sting the whole time. So that was like, I mean, that's like, that has to be like number one. Number 2 has to be my 100% tip. There were these ladies that one of the places that I worked, they were with me all day, but they were using this space because we had Wi-Fi. So they were using space and they were using our Wi-Fi and doing whatever they had to do for business. And I was just talking to them and whatnot. And they left me $100 tip on a $60 check. So that blew my mind. That was like the first time, you know, and they were like, you know, thank you for your, and they like wrote a whole note. And I was just like, oh my God, that was really, really, really decent to me. Then I would have to say, oh gosh, it's so many. Kevin, you want me to pick just one?
The most unusual. What's the most unusual? Is there an unusual story about either good or bad or just?
Let's see, unusual. Well, my favorite thing, I guess it's not really unusual because I'm open-minded. Yeah. And one of the places I work, we do a drag brunch. And that has to be, and for the past 2 years, because come November, it'll be 3 years that I've worked at this venue. Every Saturday morning, that is what I do. Every Saturday morning, I work a drag brunch. And for some people, that's unusual, but they have become my friends. You know, I love them to death. Those are my daughters, you know. So I love it. I love it.
That's awesome. That's cool. Well, Nikki, it's so awesome having you. I think we're just about out of time here. Checking it. And if there's one thing you could say to your younger self, what would it be?
One thing that I would say to my younger self. The one thing that I would say is always be authentic. You are so amazing. You know, I just want you to embrace who you are. I want you to know that you are phenomenal. You're just great. You're great. And your dope is a gift. So don't let anybody make you think that you are not less than, that you're not worth it. You're probably overqualified to be in the same room with them anyway. So it's okay.
What would you say to your mom if you saw her again? When you see her again?
Oh yeah, because I'm going to see my mom again. I'm going to say, oh my gosh, I wish I had listened to you. You were so right, Mommy. You were so right. Yeah, I would tell her she was right. And of course, I would just love her and just say thank you for giving birth to me. And thank you for giving birth to my siblings, because they mean a lot, you know, and I'm not in this thing by myself.
That's awesome. So she was right about some things, but not about the bartending.
No, yeah, she wasn't right about the bartending. This is my thing.
All right, very, very cool. So this has been amazing conversation, Nikki. My friend Nicole Bruce, Nikki, as I have to call her because we are so cut from the same Taurus cloth.
Yes, we are.
And you've been watching Christians who drink whiskey and their open-minded friends.
Wait. I almost forgot something.
Uh-oh. Fire. Do you know somebody's on fire over there? Somebody's on fire.
No, because happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday, Nikki. Happy birthday to us.
But super awesome. Nikki just became a patron of Funny&Amen, and I want to invite you too to become a patron of Funny&Amen. You can go to patreon.com/Funny&Amen. That's patreon.com/FUNNYANDAMEN. Funny&Amen. You can abbreviate that F&Amen, but you gotta spell it out. You gotta spell it out on the website. But go over there. We got a lot of great content. You get to see this show a week early, and there's other great excerpts. We're gonna ask Nikki a couple more questions that are only available on Patreon, exclusives. What do you think happens after you die? But don't answer that yet. That's over on Patreon. And in addition to that, there's short films that are there that are unreleased. There's other comedy that's unreleased, only for our patrons on Patreon. If you don't want to become a patron, that's cool. You don't have to be as awesome as Nikki and I. But you can get for free all our content on YouTube, youtube.com/C/FUNNYAMEN, Funny&Amen, and check it out. And of course, check out our sponsors, Guy and Lady Barrel Cigars.
Yep.
Guy and Lady Barrel Cigars, as well as Dad's Hat Whiskey. Dad's Hat Bourbon. And so, thank you, Nikki, for being here.
Thank you, Kevin, for having me. This was so much fun.
Or thank you for being there. Thank you for being there. Cool. Boom. Cheers.
Cheers.
So you have to become a patron and visit us and check out me and Nikki talking about the afterlife, where one of us is going to give Jesus a really long, awkward hug. So you got to become a patron to hear that story.